Hello, I am a family pastor John here, and today I want to speak to you about something that is really near and dear to my heart, and it's the whole topic of mental health and specifically suicide. You know, we live in a day and age when people are statistically, they're more aggravated, they're more irritable, and they feel more hopeless now than they have at any other point in my lifetime for sure. And I want you to know that as a leader, as a ministry leader, that mental health is something that you need to talk about on a regular basis, a consistent basis, and to remove the stigma surrounding it. I've shared at my church multiple times that depression is something that I have struggled with in the past. I'm currently on medication for it. Yes, I've prayed about it. Yes, I've been anointed with oil, but it's something that internally I have some sort of a weird chemical thing. And honestly, I didn't want to go to a doctor until one day I stood in front of my own mirror at home and said, what would you tell someone who feels like you feel right now? I'd say, are you eating right? Are you getting exercise? Are you talking to people in your life? Are you right with God? And have you gone to see a doctor? And I had checked all those boxes except for seeing a doctor. So I went and saw a doctor, and honestly, it really did help and it made a difference in my life. And I share that very openly and transparently because it's something that I'm not ashamed of. It's just something that I have to deal with. But there are many people involved in your ministry, involved in your life, that are privately battling some sort of mental illness, whether it's depression, whether it's just unhealthy thoughts or negative behaviors or addictions. I want to encourage you to speak to those issues. One of the main things that we battle here, it seems, around the holidays, especially in January, February, March, and even April, is people taking their lives. And as a pastor, unfortunately, I've had to deal with this many, many times. Even recently, a good friend of mine, he was 71 years old, took his life. And I was absolutely devastated. We had been talking, he was doing the right things, but at some point, he just lost his battle with depression, and honestly, it broke my heart. And for him, I didn't see anything coming. I mean, it was a complete and total shock to me, his wife, his adult children. He said nothing, and he even promised us that he wouldn't do anything, and that's what made it even so much harder. But there are other people in your church, there's other people in my life, and this is just something that I'm speaking to, not out of any psychology book, not out of any reference book. I'm just speaking to you from my heart on things I've had to deal with over the years. And occasionally just some advice for how to help people who are feeling hopeless or desperate. One, remove the stigma and talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to offer people, hey, I'm always here for you. You can talk to me anytime. Also, I've noticed that people who are not doing good mentally don't call me on the phone, but they send me messages through social media, oftentimes at night, strange times. They'll ask me questions like, if someone were to take their life, will they go to heaven or not? And honestly, I answer that by saying, I don't know, let's talk. I say that because I want to talk to them. I want to put some doubt in their mind, some time for them to ponder and think, and for the situations to change. So, but when people email me and they might say things like, hey, I love you, you've been such a good friend, you've had such an influence in my life, I'll just seek the Holy Spirit to guide me and to lead me and to say just inside, like, okay, this person is reaching out, you need to connect with them. And I encourage you to be sensitive to the Holy Spirit. If someone is reaching out to you and God just puts a little nudge on your heart that you need to call them, you need to reach out to them, do that. Call them, reach out to them. If someone is withdrawn, someone is maybe overly sharing how much they care about you and how much they've meant to you or you've meant to them, reach out to them. Just don't avoid it. Don't blow it off. Don't just say, hey, I'll pray for you. You need to talk to that individual. I've even had a person just a couple of years ago that I got wind that they weren't doing well, and because they'd reached out to someone else, and they called me, and I called the individual, and they had taken a whole bunch of pills. And I said, we're going to come pick you up right now, and if you don't open your door, we're going to kick it in, or we're going to call the police, and they're going to come. And fortunately, in this particular situation, the individual opened the door and we were able to take them to the hospital where they got the treatment that they needed. But mental health is a huge issue. It's a huge issue this time of year, this season, and it's an issue that affects you. And when people make a permanent solution to a temporary problem by taking their life, the ripple effects are profound. And honestly, I hate dealing with it every single time. And when I do, let me just say this, when I do deal with it, and unfortunately, I have already this year, and it just breaks my heart, but I always tell the family, look, if you would have known anything, you would have done everything. And I have them repeat that phrase to me. If I would have known anything, I would have done everything. Because people carry an enormous amount of guilt, especially if they've had a death of someone who took their life, who's been close to them. They say, well, if I just would have been here, if I would have just done this, if I would have just called them, if I would have done this, or if I would have done that. And the truth is, if they would have known anything, they would have done everything to prevent what happened. So you have to help them through that process. So from my pastor's heart to your heart, I encourage you to pay attention to mental health challenges this year. You can read about them, study them, look for signs for people who are struggling. But whatever you do, do not avoid those issues. As Christians, we need to step into the fray. We need to step into these challenges. We need to step into people's real lives and just love them where they're at. That's what Jesus calls us to do. And I know that you're going to end up dealing with situations that are beyond your abilities, that are over your head. And I just encourage you to seek and trust God, follow his lead, follow his prompting, and do whatever you can do to help individuals in need or in crisis. Today, the world needs to see Jesus. And for some people, the only glimpse of Christianity, the only glimpse of Jesus they'll ever see is your response to them. So be that friend. Encourage others to be that friend. Encourage them to find a friend. But openly talk about mental health issues and openly talk about the ramifications of someone taking their life. Don't shy away from it. Don't pretend that nothing happened. Address it head on. Together we can make a difference, because this is truly an epidemic and it's truly an issue. And for me, it's incredibly personal, and my heart is still aching from what happened just a few short weeks ago. So as the IMF family, let's work together for the glory of God. Let's tackle mental health issues head on. Let's tackle this loss of life, especially by suicide, head on. Let's do as much preventative work as we can right away. And for those that end up losing their battle, let's come alongside all those families and all those individuals who are left behind dealing with the messy issues as they continue on. So together we can make a difference. As IMF family, I'm thankful and grateful for you, and I'm thankful and grateful that you are choosing to make a difference wherever God has planted you. So bye for now.